Everyone, and welcome to today's video. This is a B1 level ESL lesson, and today we're going to be working on the second conditional. So would you try scuba diving? And have you ever tried a challenging physical activity? And what would you like to try but haven't done yet, and why? And you can go ahead and answer those questions in the comments if you would like. So read about Harper and answer the questions. I'm afraid of heights. A few years ago, a group of friends invited me to try rock climbing, and surprisingly, I said yes. When I was just a few feet off the ground, my legs started shaking and I froze. I took some deep breaths and tried to focus. Eventually, I managed to get to the top. It was an incredible thrill, and I've been hooked ever since. So, would you go rock climbing? And do you have any fears? And again, you can share those answers in the comments. Now, listen to Sarifa talk about rock climbing, and then you'll indicate which of the statements is true.
I
I
would
would
try
try
rock
rock
climbing
climbing
if
if
I
I
didn't
didn't
have to do it outside. The idea of climbing a mountain is terrifying to me, especially if it was windy or rainy. But if I could start indoors and not climb too high, that wouldn't be so bad. If I had a calm, experienced instructor, that would help too.
Right, so Sarifa tried indoor rock climbing. That's false. She has booked to go rock climbing this weekend. That's false. She's never been rock climbing. That's true. And Sarifa was planning to go rock climbing last year, but the introductory class was canceled. That's false. All right, now complete the text and then listen and check.
I would try rock climbing if I didn't have to do it outside. The idea of climbing a mountain is terrifying to me, especially if it was windy or rainy. But if I could start indoors and not climb too high, that wouldn't be so bad. If I had a calm, experienced instructor, that would help too.
Right, an unlikely future or an unreal present. We use the second conditional to talk about imagined events or states. So if I didn't have a meeting, I would meet you for dinner. The real present is I have a meeting. In the unlikely future, I would go rock climbing if I weren't afraid. The likely future is I will still be afraid. Talking about an unreal present or an unlikely future. When the second conditional, we use the second conditional when we imagine a situation in the future that is unlikely, unreal, or impossible. So if I found a wallet in the street, I would take it to the police station. I would take a wallet to the police if I found it in the street. So which tense is used in the if clause? That is the past tense. And which tense is used in the result clause? I would take it is present. So in the example, the speaker that is thinks it is unlikely that he would find a wallet in the street. All right, so now practice your second conditionals. Pause the video, try these on your own, and then restart when you're ready to check your answers. So if you practice the piano more often, you would play better. If I didn't have a test tomorrow, I would go to the movies with you. if you drank more water, you wouldn't feel so thirsty all the time. If you lived closer to me, I would see you more often. If they exercised more, they would be much fitter. If you found, oops, so if you found a wallet in the street, would you keep it? If she didn't work so hard, she wouldn't have enough money to pay for her house. All right, we're going to review the second conditional here. If I weren't afraid, I would go rock climbing. If she had a lot of money, she would travel the world. If I won the lottery, he wouldn't work any longer. If I studied harder, if they studied harder, they might get better grades. And if we stopped using cars, would global warming stop? So we usually use would, but we can also use could and might in the main clause. Now, Lily took up a new activity to read the text and answer the questions. When I was in my late 20s, I realized that I was putting on weight. I decided to take up running. At first, I couldn't run much more than 100 meters without getting out of breath. I had to run 100 meters and then walk 100 meters, run 100 meters, and then walk 100 meters. I had to stick to it, but after a few weeks, I started to improve. Why did Lily start running? Well, she realized she was putting on weight. How do we know that this was a challenging thing for Lily? She talks about not being able to run more than 100 meters without getting out of breath. And have you ever started a new physical activity? Okay, now we're going to listen to Wendy and complete this text.
If I lived in the countryside, I wouldn't mind going running. Here in the city, there is a lot of air pollution, and if I went running near my apartment, I wouldn't be able to breathe because of the traffic fumes.
Wendy is talking about an unreal present event because she lives in the city. Wendy is also talking about an unlikely future event because she probably won't go running. And Jody tried windsurfing, so read the text and answer the questions. Last year I was at the beach and there were lots of people windsurfing, so I decided to give it a chance. It wasn't the first time I had tried it. My first attempt ended badly, but the warm weather and the gentle breeze inspired me to try again. I still found it very difficult to balance, but this time I was more patient. Gradually I began to get the hang of it. So what does it mean What does she mean by give it a chance? Well, that just means that you decided to try something. What does it mean? Which word means slowly and over time? That would be gradually. And which word means a light wind? That would be breeze. And what does it mean when you get the hang of something? It means you start to learn how to do it. All right, so listen to Dylan. What activity does Dylan talk about? Why wouldn't he have the necessary strength to do this activity? And what does he mention? Why does he mention warm weather?
Windsurfing? Well, I think I would be terrible at it, to be honest. I'm just not very coordinated. If I had stronger arms, it would be better, but I don't think I would have the strength to pull up the sail. Perhaps if the weather was warm and sunny, I would give it a try.
Okay, so what activity does Dylan talk about? Windsurfing. Why wouldn't he have the necessary strength to do this activity? He's just not very coordinated and doesn't have strong arms to pull up the sail. And why does he mention warm weather? He would try windsurfing if it was warm and sunny. In the second conditional, we often use were instead of was in the if clause. We often use were instead of was when talking about an impossible situation. If I were a bird, I would fly all over the world. If I were an astronaut, I could travel into space. To give advice, we often use a second conditional with the if clause, if I were you. I have to work again on Saturday and Sunday. I am so tired. If I were you, I'd look for a new job. Today, many people use was in everyday informal English. If I was in New York, I would come with you to the party. If I was you, I'd find a new housemate. And many people still consider this incorrect English, however, using was with if. It's important to think about how the speaker perceives the situation. Both the first and second conditional relate to the future. We use the first conditional for a possible situation, while we use the second conditional for an unlikely, unreal, or impossible situation. If it's sunny tomorrow, I'll go to the beach. I'll meet you for lunch tomorrow if I had time. I think these situations are possible. If I had a lot of money, I would stop working. If I didn't have a TV, I would read lots of books. I am imagining the situations. One is unlikely and the other is impossible. Sandra is a positive person. James is a negative person. So when thinking about the future, Sandra thinks that everything is possible. James thinks that everything is unlikely or impossible. So for each exercise, make a first conditional for Sandra and a second conditional for James. So Sandra says, if I leave my job, I will find a new one. If I go to more parties, I will meet new friends. Number 4, if I work hard, so if I work hard, I will be more successful. Oops. Number 4, if I eat more healthy food, I will have more energy. Or you could make it negative. Oh, sorry, we did just Sandra's the first time. So Sandra is positive, so these are her answers. James is negative. James would say, if I left my job, I wouldn't find a new one. If I went to more parties, I wouldn't meet new friends. If I worked hard, I wouldn't be more successful. And if I ate more healthy food, I wouldn't have more energy. So would you try netball? Tyra decided to give netball a chance. I love trying new sports, and last week I tried something called netball for the first time. The most difficult thing was remembering all the rules. It's a little bit like basketball, which I had played before, but I discovered that there are some important differences. In the first half of the match, I gave away quite a few penalties, but I learned from my mistakes, and the second half was better. So these are some ideas that you can share in the comments. When was the last time you tried a new team sport? And do you find it easy to learn new rules? Now listen to Jonas and answer the questions. Complete the 2 conditionals that Jonas says.
If I was playing with a group of beginners, I would be happy to try netball. I'm athletic. I like team sports, but I hate letting people down. So, if I was the only member of the team who didn't know what they were doing, I would feel uncomfortable.
So if I was playing with a group of beginners, I would be happy to try netball. And if I was the only member of the team who didn't know what they were doing, I would feel uncomfortable. All right, now we're going to listen to Lucy and complete this text and then answer the questions.
Recently, I signed up for a 6-week intensive training course at my local gym. I was a bit apprehensive to start with because I like sports and exercise, but I wasn't really a gym person. In the end, I thought the experience was fantastic. The 2 instructors were very enthusiastic and patient, and they incorporated a wide variety of different exercises. It was a really great workout. I've already put my name down for the next course.
So what provided the motivation for Lucy to continue? Well, the patient and enthusiastic instructors. And what does she mean by a gym person? Just a person who generally likes going to the gym. So see if you can come up with a dialogue to talk about, or some sentences to talk about an unlikely future. Um, if you won $5 million, but you had to spend it all in a year, what would you buy? What would you do? Where would you go? If you didn't have to work anymore, or if you could meet anyone in the world. Think about those, maybe write a few sentences, and if you'd like, share those in the comments. And that brings us to the end of today's video. Please like, subscribe, share, leave your comments, and I will see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.